Where do you keep your two statuettes nowadays?
Oh,
Good place?
well then,
Fireplace?
no, no,
Home?
no.
The 10th Academy Awards in 1938 celebrated the films of 1937, and it was the year Luise Rainer made history, becoming the first actress ever to win back-to-back Oscars. It was a moment that should have cemented her place among Hollywood's greatest legends. Yet today, her name barely rings a bell for most people. How could someone who once stood at the very top of the film industry, adored by critics and fans alike, simply vanish from Hollywood's memory? It's almost unbelievable that this woman, who achieved something only Katharine Hepburn would later match, was later seen as a forgotten figure, a ghost of a golden era. In this video, we explore the extraordinary rise and mysterious fall of Luise Rainer. We'll uncover how the studio system catapulted her to overnight fame, how she landed a role she was never supposed to have, why her competition never stood a chance, and what truly led to her quiet disappearance after just 3 remarkable years in Hollywood. Her story isn't just about fame and success. It's about how quickly the spotlight can fade, even for those who once shone the brightest. Born on January 12, 1910 in Dusseldorf, Germany, Luise Rainer grew up in a world marked by upheaval and scarcity. Her father, a German Jewish businessman who had spent part of his childhood in Texas, was both passionate and possessive, while her mother, a talented pianist, exuded warmth and intelligence. Rainer, a premature baby, was a tomboy from a young age, athletic, adventurous, and fiercely independent. She became a champion runner and a daring mountain climber, and she later said acting was a way to channel her boundless energy. Her fascination with performance began at 6, inspired by a circus act she saw as a child. By 16, Rainer was determined to pursue acting, sneaking away to Dusseldorf for an audition at the Dumont Theater. She quickly impressed, studying under the legendary Max Reinhardt and earning a reputation as a young actress of remarkable talent. Her stage work in Berlin and Vienna included classics like St. Joan, Measure for Measure, and Pirandello's 6 Characters in Search of an Author. By 1934, after several German-language films, MGM talent scout Phil Berg noticed her in a performance of 6 Characters in Search of an Author and offered her a Hollywood contract, believing she could captivate audiences much like Greta Garbo. Though initially reluctant to leave the theater for film, a viewing of A Farewell to Arms changed her mind. Its beauty inspired her to embrace the silver screen. Rainer's journey from European theaters to the glamour of Hollywood had begun, setting the stage for her historic, though brief, rise to stardom. 1938 stands out as a singular year in the annals of Hollywood, particularly in the Best Actress category. Each nominee delivered performances that would not only define their careers but also leave an indelible mark on the history of cinema. Barbara Stanwyck, for instance, gave a heart-wrenching portrayal in Stella Dallas, embodying a working-class woman caught in the unforgiving tide of class bias after marrying into wealth. Her performance captured audiences and critics alike, with the Los Angeles Times hailing it as her finest work to date. Press outlets were almost unanimous in their predictions that Stanwyck's emotional depth and tragic elegance would earn her the Academy Award. Irene Dunne, in stark contrast, brought laughter and sharp wit to the screen in The Awful Truth. Considered today one of the crowning achievements of screwball comedy, paired with Cary Grant, Dunne danced effortlessly through the chaos of misunderstandings and marital discord, creating a performance brimming with charm, intelligence, and comedic timing that has since become timeless. Janet Gaynor, meanwhile, shown in the original A Star is Born, portraying an aspiring actress navigating the treacherous intersection of love, ambition, and heartbreak. Her delicate balance of vulnerability and determination captured the bittersweet realities of fame and personal sacrifice. And then there was Greta Garbo, the ethereal, untouchable queen of Hollywood. Her role in Camille offered a perfect blend of romantic intensity and tragic melancholy, a performance that solidified her as one of the greatest screen actresses of her era. Garbo's portrayal earned her the New York Critics Circle Award, and yet, despite the critical acclaim and the public's fascination, the Oscar slipped from her grasp. Instead, the Academy awarded Luise Rainer for her role as Olan in The Good Earth, a portrayal of a Chinese farmer enduring famine and hardship. On the surface, it seemed almost paradoxical. Rainer's screen time and narrative weight were arguably modest compared to her peers. So, what gave her the edge? Delving deeper, one uncovers the powerful machinery of the Hollywood studio system. Louise had been handpicked by Louis B. Mayer, the formidable head of MGM, who saw in her the potential to become a star of Garbo's caliber. From her arrival in Hollywood, she was surrounded by a carefully orchestrated campaign to establish her as MGM's dramatic luminary. Her first Academy Award came astonishingly early for only her second film, The Great Ziegfeld, setting the stage for MGM to position her as the studio's crown jewel. When Irving Thalberg, MGM's legendary producer, advocated for an adaptation of the Pulitzer Prize-winning The Good Earth, Rainer found herself cast as Olin. Both the film and her performance were presented as faithful, deeply moving interpretations of the beloved novel, and the studio spared no effort in promoting her role. While her screen presence was not as commanding as the emotional arcs offered by Stanwyck, Dunn, Gaynor, or Garbo, the powerful influence of MGM's machinery and Mayer's ambitions swayed the Academy's favor. As film historian Emmanuel Levy notes, there have always been efforts to persuade members of the Academy to vote a particular way, and in this instance, the studio's devotion to crafting Rainer as the next great Hollywood star ensured her triumph. In the 1930s, the pursuit of Academy recognition was rarely left to chance. The studios themselves were the driving force behind Oscar-worthy campaigns, and no studio wielded this influence more skillfully than MGM. Under the watchful eye of Louis B. Mayer, a founding father of the Academy, MGM not only shaped the careers of its stars, but also had a hand in guiding the very body that would judge them. During this decade, MGM amassed an astonishing 153 nominations and 33 wins, numbers unmatched by any other studio, with Paramount, the second-place contender, trailing at 102 nominations and 18 awards. Nearly half of all acting Oscars in the 1930s went to MGM's carefully cultivated contract players. Yet not every performer was willing to surrender themselves entirely to a studio. A notable portion of the era's finest talents chose the uncertain path of freelancing, a choice that proved both liberating and perilous. In 1938, 3 of the 5 Best Actress nominees were freelancers. Barbara Stanwyck from the very start preferred short-term contracts, hopping between studios like RKO, Paramount, Fox, and independent producer Samuel Goldwyn, sometimes juggling multiple commitments in a single year. Irene Dunne navigated a similar path, moving from Columbia to Paramount to Universal within just a couple of years. Janet Gaynor, after decades under a long-term Fox contract, allowed it to lapse following the studio's merger with 20th Century, and thereafter chose one-picture deals with independent producers, including the legendary David O. Selznick. Freelancing offered undeniable advantages: artistic freedom, the chance to escape typecasting, and the ability to explore a wider range of roles. Stanwyck herself flourished under this model, moving effortlessly between screwball comedies like Ball of Fire and film noir masterpieces like Double Indemnity, demonstrating a versatility that few could match. But independence came at a cost. Freelancers lacked the resources, the studio clout, and the promotional machinery that could marshal votes and shape the Academy's perception. Studios prized loyalty above all else. A devoted contract player was a star whose every performance, every photograph, and every headline could be leveraged to secure awards. For those who remained unbound, brilliance alone was sometimes not enough to tilt the scales. Success required not just talent, but the unseen hand of influence and orchestration. It remains one of Hollywood's enduring ironies. Barbara Stanwyck and Irene Dunne, 2 actresses of extraordinary range and depth, never won an Academy Award. Their absence from Oscar history feels almost cruel, especially when measured against the brilliance of their careers. Janet Gaynor, by contrast, had captured the first Best Actress Oscar in 1928 under Fox. A reminder that timing, studio influence, and circumstance could shape recognition as much as talent. One can't help but wonder if Stanwyck or Dunn had the unwavering support of MGM behind them. Might the story have been different? Greta Garbo's case adds another layer of complexity. A long-term MGM contract player, and already the reigning queen of the screen, She dazzled critics and audiences alike with Camille. Yet when Luise Rainer claimed the Oscar for The Good Earth, the reasons were less about performance and more about alliances. Louis B. Mayer, the towering force at MGM, had championed Louise, while Garbo, despite her superstar status, did not enjoy his full favor. Garbo's brilliance had been evident since The Flesh and the Devil in 1927, her star rising faster than any Hollywood had seen. But fame came at a cost. Dissatisfied with being typecast in vampy roles and outraged by the massive pay disparity between herself and co-star John Gilbert, she demanded a renegotiation, higher pay, greater creative control, and respect for her artistry. Mayer resisted fiercely, threatening deportation and publicly labeling her difficult, even megalomaniacal. Garbo, steadfast and unyielding, even halted production to assert her terms. Ultimately, MGM relented, but the trust between star and studio was irreparably strained. In Mayer's eyes, she was no longer a team player. Garbo despised Hollywood's social demands, the relentless publicity, and the expectation of charm and compliance. Ironically, Mayer searched for a new Garbo and thought he found her in Luise Rainer, only to discover that everything Garbo despised about Hollywood, its pressures, its rituals, its endless compromises, Luise detested as well, and she possessed far less patience for it. In the end, loyalty, politics, and the whims of studio power often overshadowed artistry, leaving some of Hollywood's brightest talents just beyond the reach of the accolades they deserved. Luise Rainer was notoriously reluctant to embrace the spotlight. When she won her second Oscar, she nearly skipped the ceremony entirely. Studio head Louis B. Mayer, realizing she wasn't attending, sent MGM staff to her home where they found her in pajamas and curlers, preparing for a quiet night in. Reluctantly, she arrived just in time to accept her award. But even as the applause echoed around her, Rainer's heart wasn't in Hollywood. She openly spoke to the press about her unhappiness, feeling trapped in the rigid MGM system. Roles soon became a burden rather than a thrill, and those she did take failed to impress audiences or critics. By the end of that year, magazines ran headlines asking, "Whatever happened to Luise Rainer?" Her meteoric rise was matched by an equally dramatic fall. Gossip columnist Luella Parsons famously coined the term Oscar curse in 1939, inspired by Rainer's sudden retreat from the limelight. By December, Rainer had broken her MGM contract and walked away after just 3 years, effectively blacklisting herself. Mayer, furious, reportedly vowed to ensure she never returned. "We made you and we're going to kill you," he allegedly said. Looking back at her performances today, one might not feel the awe of contemporary audiences. In The Good Earth, her portrayal of Olan has been critiqued as overly weary, her German accent and dramatic makeup creating a distance from the character's authenticity, and yet to judge her work solely by modern standards misses the deeper context. The Good Earth also stands as a stark reminder of Hollywood's entrenched prejudices. The film was steeped in yellowface with white actors cast as Chinese characters, while genuine Asian actors were sidelined. Anna May Wong, the only prominent Chinese star of the era, had hoped to play Olan. Instead, studio rules and the Hays Code prohibiting interracial couples on screen barred her from the role. She was offered the part of Lotus, a stereotypical and unsympathetic character, which she rejected. Rainer, by virtue of her race and studio backing, stepped into a role Wong could not play. In hindsight, Luise Rainer's brief career illuminates the fragile, often unfair machinery of Hollywood stardom. Her talent was undeniable. Yet her story also highlights the systemic privileges and biases that shaped who got celebrated and who was silenced. Though her time in the spotlight was fleeting, Rainer's consecutive Oscar wins remain a remarkable achievement, a bittersweet testament to both her skill and the fleeting, often cruel nature of fame. Luise Rainer passed away peacefully at her London home on December 30th, 2014, just 13 days shy of her 105th birthday. She succumbed to pneumonia, leaving behind a remarkable, if brief, Hollywood legacy. In her later years, she lived in a flat once occupied by the legendary Vivien Leigh at 54 Eaton Square, Belgravia, a quiet reflection of a life that had once shone under the studio lights, though her Hollywood career lasted only a few years. Rainer's impact was enduring. She made history as the first actor to win back-to-back Academy Awards, a feat that marked her as one of the most celebrated talents of her time. Yet she was always ambivalent about fame, famously resisting the Hollywood machine and walking away from MGM at the height of her success. This brief but intense period in the spotlight revealed both her extraordinary talent and her courage to defy the pressures of the studio system. After her death, Rainer's personal memorabilia were auctioned in 2015, fetching nearly $500,000 for her heirs, a testament to the lasting fascination with her life and career.